My name is Jessica Brooks. I am the chair for the Rising Professionals Interest Group meeting, and this event is Unlock Your Potential Expert Tips to Leverage Your Textile Career. Before we jump in and introduce our panel today, this is your session, a chance to have your questions answered and opinions heard. Please feel free to type in any questions as you think of them. We will take a time after we answer a few questions that we have already prepared to answer any audience members' questions. So as you think of them, feel free to type them in or write them down. And when we open it up, you'll have the chance to raise your hand and we can call on you. We've been asked to record this session. So if you don't wish to be recorded, please mute your webcam and participate via chat. We have two wonderful people on our panel today. We have Doug Coley. Doug Coley is president of Coley Company, an executive search firm focused on placing talent within apparel, textile, and non-woven product companies. Doug has 25 plus years of recruiting experience, placing people worldwide in the textile industry. Doug leads companies through the competitive hiring process and coaches executives as they seek a job change. Katie Copple is an experienced HR professional focused on talent acquisition and professional development. She currently serves as HR generalist at Unifi Manufacturing. In addition, she is a board member of the Human Resources Management Association of Greensboro. Doug, if you want to take this time to say a few words.
I will. I'm thrilled to be here, to be participating with everyone here today, and looking forward to sharing ideas and thoughts. And please share questions you may have in the chat, and we'll try to get to those.
Perfect. Katie?
Hi, everyone. I am Katie Copple. Just a little bit about me. I am an HR professional with about 10 years of experience focused on talent acquisition and professional development. I enjoy guiding young professionals through their careers and helping them reach their goals. My HR background is within the mechanical, manufacturing, and textile industries. I'm looking forward to being part of the panel today to discuss tips on how to leverage your career. I will kick it back to Jessica to get us started.
Thank you. Let's start with a state of the textile industry. Doug, why don't you kick us off?
Okay. So when we think of the textile industry, we must consider how broad the industry is. If you think of the textile industry, there are so many niche markets, and there's never a time in the textile industry when everything is flat or everything is weak. So if you think of the textile industry, there's so many different parts of the industry, from consumer brands, which might be a little bit softer per some of the stock numbers that we see, but consumer brands of apparel, footwear, accessories, industrial products, filtration, healthcare, automotive, aerospace, furniture, bedding, government, military products, home furnishings. So the most exciting thing about the industry, I think, is there's so many markets that rely on the textile industry, and we sort of put the textile industry in one box sometimes, maybe the consumer brands, but it's so broad. And so there are many different niche markets, and some are doing great at one time, and some are maybe just finished a great peak. So they all go up and down. So it's an industry where it's very broad, and I think we have to think about that. And you can have a textile background. So think about this. This is probably unlike any other industry I know of. If you have a strong understanding of textile products, you can choose to move and work in any of these parts, any of these niche industries, as long as you have that basic foundational knowledge of the textile industry. You can go into many of these niche markets. So that's kind of how I would summarize it today.
I think that's a really good point, because like you said, people do tend to think of just the brands, but there's so many different areas. And I think that brings us to our next question of, where are we seeing areas of growth within the industry?
I would say one of the greatest things about the textile industry is it's constantly evolving. As Doug mentioned, there are many areas being explored. One of these areas is the increasing demand for sustainability, which focuses on reducing waste and using eco-friendly materials and textiles. Another area is the development of smart textiles, which incorporates technology to enhance the functionality and performance. Other areas of growth include the use of technical textiles, and this can be in various industries such as construction, transportation, medical, and protective clothing as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of different areas that are increasing, and it's great to see. Doug, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
Well, I would echo the green sustainable products. Years ago when that became very important, it was in just certain markets. It was more consumer focused. But now we're seeing green, sustainable, biodegradable products being even broader into multiple categories. So it's just not noted in consumer brands, it's noted in industrial brands, in aerospace and automotive. We're seeing a lot of plant-based materials, so biopolymers and plant-based materials. There's a growth in the plant-based leathers, leather made from plant materials. And then the other thing that I see growing is companies outside the U.S. that are having home offices outside the U.S. want to have a bigger presence in the U.S. So some companies that are based outside the U.S., wherever they may be in the world, want either brick and mortar with a manufacturing site here, or they're now wanting to have a sales function here, people that they can have here working for those companies located outside of the U.S. So that's a growth that we see within what we're doing in the industry.
Yeah, it's nice to see that there's so many different areas that you can really grow into, areas that you can focus your career if you're, want to make a little change, somewhere that you can go into. So it's really good to hear. So let's kind of jump into how do you make yourself more valuable? Katie, do you want to start with this one?
I can. There are several ways you can make yourself more valuable. One way is really start by setting clear goals. Define what you want to achieve in your career and create a plan to reach those goals. This will help you stay focused and motivated. Another thing is continuous learning and development are essential to staying relevant in your field. So always be on the lookout for opportunities to attend workshops, take courses, or gain a new certification. Staying up to date with new industry trends can help make you more versatile too.
I think that's a great point about certifications, or not even just getting, a master's degree, right? There's different little certifications and things that can make you more valuable outside of full on further education. Doug, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I have some thoughts. I agree with what Katie shared, but some other ideas would be wear more hats. Think of wearing more hats in your company, in your organization, and do that very strategically. Take on more projects because that will broaden your skill set. And the last thing is gain more technical knowledge related to products, textile products, and how those products are made. So if I had someone ask me, Doug, what's the most valuable skill set in the industry of textiles today? And I think this answer would apply to people in sales. It would apply to people in design. It would apply to people in supply chain, sourcing, product development, very technical leadership skills or technical skills, technical roles. The most sought after people have outstanding people skills, without question, and then tremendous knowledge of product and manufacturing. So if you think about a lot of the people that are ending their career in the industry, we're losing many people that have great knowledge of how products are made, whether they're made in the US or around the world, and understand what goes on in the manufacturing plant. We're losing those people. So the people in their early stage of their career, I could not emphasize more strongly, spend time in plants to understand what happens there. Even though maybe you're working for a brand, you can still go out and spend time with the manufacturing plants. So the people that have those wonderful people skills and then very strong technical knowledge are the most highly valued. So think about designers, the designers who are so wonderfully gifted with creative talent that combine that with knowledge of how products are made. That's a powerful combination. Think of salespeople that are great at business development, but then those salespeople that have all the answers to those technical questions that the customer is asking. And then sourcing people that understand where products are made, sourcing people that know more than where it's made, but how it's made. And then the people developing materials that might be dealing with mills around the world. If you're developing materials and you know a lot about how those materials are made from the plant level, you're going to be in a better spot. So that would be some of my thoughts.
Yeah, I can't agree more with that. And I try to, every time I have an intern or anytime I'm teaching a class, I try to make sure to mention, if you can get in mill experience, whether it's an internship, whether you start off your career or spend your entire career, being close to the product is key. I think that's a really great point. Katie, did you have anything else that you wanted to add with this topic?
Something else that I think can make a person valuable is to seek feedback. Ask for feedback from your colleagues and supervisors. This is really important because it can help you to identify strengths and weaknesses, and it also provides opportunities for learning and development. Receiving feedback can also help you build trust and shows that you are open to constructive critique.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe you get feedback and that's something that maybe was holding you back from an opportunity and you didn't even know about it. And now working on it, you're opening yourself up to future opportunities.
Yes, and getting out of your comfort zone. I mean, it might be uncomfortable to say, hey, is there anything I can work on? But once you do that, you can only improve from there.
Absolutely. Doug, do you have anything else or should I switch to our next topic?
I think that's it. I think I shared all my thoughts.
No problem. So let's go to let's talk about, asking about advice is a good segue to industry experts. What are some impacts that may have made, what's some advice from industry experts that has made the biggest impact on their or your career?
I know for me, what has made the biggest impact on my career is a mentor who really challenged me to gain my HR certification. It was a challenge, but at the same time, it allowed me to grow. In general, the biggest impact in someone's career can really vary depending upon the individual. I would say ultimately it is a combination of factors that shape and define a person's career. Some of the most impactful attributes that leaders have shared with me are being coachable, staying curious, always remain curious and want to know more. And maybe even it's not in your area or genre, just see what, if you're curious about something and you want to learn more, don't be afraid to ask those questions. Being humble and then learning from mistakes.
Let's go back to your comment on mentor. I think that's a really good one and somewhere that AATCC can somewhat help. Now that we have AATCC communities, it's a great place for members to, if you're looking for a mentor or looking to speak to someone about, finding an industry expert, communities is a great place to go to look for that, and really opens you up to all of your network that you can get from being an AATCC member.
Yeah, I would also say networking, and I'm sure Doug can add something to this too, that networking is super valuable. It's called to build your networking. You want to build that constantly, having positive experiences and interactions with those inside your organization and outside.
Yes, yes.
Doug, what else do you have to offer for this?
Some thoughts I have. So I'm dealing with people that are working in the textile industry, and sometimes they'll come to me and say, Doug, I want to make a job change. And when I hear that, the first question I ask is, have you really sought out all of the opportunities to grow within your existing company? So I guess my first thought would be, have patience. There has been a lot of job activity in the last 3 or 4 years. A lot of companies have been looking for people. Market's been very hot. There's been a lot of changes. And I find that sometimes we need to make sure that we've not stepped out of a company too quickly. In other words, you want to investigate, is there a way that I can grow and gain the experience I'm looking for in my current company before I entertain leaving? In other words, try to make sure that your organization knows what you're trying to reach in terms of your career goals. And share those career goals with your team and the people you work with, and let them be a part of reaching those goals. So I think being flexible and trying to advance within your company before you look outside. And then I think the other is the more flexible you are in your career with the type of hats you wear, that's going to equate to more job opportunities within your current company and within your career. And then I would go back to the technical product knowledge that again comes to play here. I think that's made the biggest impact in many people's careers.
Yeah, and especially if you're flexible and willing to wear different hats, you can become the expert within your company by trying to branch out and learn as much as you can about the product.
Right.
I would say too, sometimes those most sought after candidates are the ones that have pursued those non-traditional or unexpected roles. And there are folks that may look at that and say, oh, I'd like to see how that would translate well when either connecting with customers or connecting with this product. So that can make you valuable also.
Absolutely. I think those are all really good advice. I think that I agree with everything that you've said so far. Let's talk about our young professionals or recent graduates. What recommendations would you give them?
For recent grads, I would say find a trusted mentor that you can connect with regularly. This could be monthly or on a regular schedule. Let them know what your goals are and some of the challenges that you're experiencing. They will be able to give you the most sound advice in a trusted environment to help you best navigate areas for growth and potential next steps. It's invaluable to gain that experience from them, and they could give you great advice as well.
Those are some great points. Doug?
So I echo mentors. There's nothing more valuable to someone in the early stages of their career than a trusted mentor to give advice and share ideas. Really hone your people skills, polish your people skills. Some people while in college, working on their academic career, are so focused in things that they're trying to accomplish with their classes, but the people skills is so important. And then I think of two paths that people can go into when you leave college with a textile background. One path is with a very large company that is very highly structured. And often those companies that are very large and very highly structured, maybe multi-billion-dollar companies, they have tremendous training grounds. They spend a lot of time in developing people. So for me, for example, my first job out of college was at Milliken, and the training I obtained there really was wonderful for me further in my career. So if you think about those very large, highly structured companies, they're great places to really gain a lot of training and further development past your college career. So I think that's a good place to really develop skills. And then I think also of the smaller companies, maybe companies, I say smaller, company that's under $500 million. So a company that's 500 million, 200, smaller companies give you the opportunity to go into an organization and wear many hats. So think about that. If you think about wearing multiple hats in an organization, wouldn't that be great training? Yes, there's a lot that you're going to do. So wearing multiple hats will give you exposure to many different areas. And often you find that with smaller companies. So don't shy away from the smaller companies that are under consideration coming out of college, because there's so much to learn and soak up, because you're going to be asked to wear a bunch of hats. You know, the larger companies are a little bit more highly structured, and you may be very much tuned into one particular area. And the small companies will give you that opportunity to do multiple things and learn multiple areas. And then, you know, if you're still in school, absolutely take advantage of all of the interviewing you can through your school and your advisors there, because all of that's just going to improve your ability when you're interviewing.
Yeah, and your people skills.
There. Yeah, Doug, about the if you're still in school, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I can't tell you how many times I have received a resume from a colleague, and I'm always happy to connect with that candidate. I like to learn more about what that person's interested in and what types of roles they're looking for. Even if I don't have a role at the time, it's great that I've made that connection and I have that initial introduction, so that when the time is right, I can then re-engage with that candidate. And that's also giving someone who's young in their career that early experience in a less probably intense conversation than a true interview, to like really learn, how do I talk about myself? What am I going to share? And have that back and forth conversation. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there either.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned that, because I wouldn't have thought to, you know, you reach out because you want to mentor, you want to learn more, but having your resume passed on to HR for future opportunities is such a win, and kind of gives you a step up before there's even a job opportunity. And I wouldn't have thought to do that. So I think it's a really good point.
And I
Yeah,
would like to, I want to add
ahead.
something when we get, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The other thing I might add is, think of your LinkedIn profile as a tool to advance your career and to advance your knowledge of the industry, and more importantly, to advance your network. Katie mentioned the value of your network, and I think that's very, very important. So think of your LinkedIn profile as a way to connect with people that are in your network. So think of people that you work with today that you can connect with and stay in touch with, and think of people that you worked with in the past that you can stay in touch with. LinkedIn is a great tool, and a lot of companies and recruiting firms, both organizations like where Katie works and other companies, and where everyone works, they pay a lot of money to have access to people on LinkedIn. And you're going to be more accessible if you have populated your profile there. And I think that's a positive thing to use as a networking tool.
I definitely agree. I try to be good about that, but I always recommend to my students or to young professionals or people that I meet, you know, add me as a connection so we can stay in touch. So I think it's excellent networking opportunity.
And those candidates that reach out or connect that way, these are often the candidates that I reach out to first when I do have an opportunity that would be a good fit for them.
I'm going to take the time to open it up to any audience questions. I don't see any in the chat right now. Feel free to type in those questions if you have one. I will ask one of my own while we're waiting to see if our audience has one to offer. Let's see. Let's talk about further education, is it the only way to have a successful career?
I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily no. I think a degree is certainly valuable and it will definitely set you apart. And I think, having that background really does set you in front of certain candidates. But I also say, don't be rushed. If you've completed your bachelor's degree and you're considering your master's, don't be afraid to take that entry level position and maybe do school at a little bit slower pace than just rushing through it. You will have so much more valuable experience on your content that you're learning in your master's program from your real world experience in your professional career. And that also translates well. And then sometimes you can actually get a portion of your education paid for by your organization, depending upon if they have tuition reimbursement. So there's also a potential cost savings on the timeline of how you do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I agree with the academic. It puts you ahead of others with similar skills. I think that's the positive with that. I really see no downside. I think when people are being considered for a job, and I look at people and they've obtained their graduate degree while working. My goodness, that's the toughest thing in the world. Someone on my team did that and worked full time and went to school full time, at night. And so it's another demonstration of how difficult things can be when you're working and going back to school. So I think doing that at the same time is a way to evaluate how strong someone is and how dedicated they are. And it's a great thing to have as additional educational background.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of the things that you both are saying I resonate with exactly, and I follow through my career. I mean, starting with a small company, now I'm with a larger company. I did my master's at night while I also did certification. So, it's nice to check off those boxes if you can while you're working your way up through the career. We have a few questions in the chat already. Our first one is, what skills do we work on to make us more recession/mass layoff proof in the textile industry? So what skills do we work on to make us more recession/mass layoff proof in the textile industry? Who wants to kick this one off?
I would say first, it goes back to what I described to make yourself more valuable. When you have skills that others do not have, you're going to be more valued. And the skills that I most often see that others or many don't have, remember what the comment I made about people are retiring and they have those tremendous technical skills, and those people are leaving the industry. So if you have spent your time in mills and plants and know those areas, you're going to be above your peers, and that's going to make you more valuable. I can never say someone's going to be recession proof or not possibly considered for a layoff. That really also depends on the industry you're in. But I think that if you look at your skills where you're going to be becoming more valuable, I would go to those things that are all things about what's happening in the plants, how products are made, and a stronger understanding of that will put you ahead and help you maybe to keep your job in a company that's going through some weak times.
Those are some great points. And like you said, you can't make yourself layoff proof, but getting those hats and different things in order will definitely help. Katie, do you have anything you wanted to add with that question?
Like he said, you can't really ever guarantee that someone won't be part of a layoff, but I do think trying to obtain maybe some additional certifications, some things that are kind of in the industry are anything really related to sustainability best practices, maybe sustainable dyeing certifications or something in that realm, anything related to circularity or the circular economy, are things that can make you more valuable as well.
Great points. Our next question, speaking of changing careers, what if you're already currently in a very different industry, one that's not based in textiles? Any tips for making that kind of switch other than going back to school? And Michelle's already doing that currently. So what are some tips for making a switch from one industry into the textile industry?
You know, I think you do that through networking. I think you identify people at companies that you might be interested in working there. And I think you get to know those people. I think you go to networking events. If you're back in school, attending school in a textile environment, you try to grow your network. The other thing is, if you're 100% in school and have left your job behind and you're in a textile program academically, you can work part-time. You know, it's like someone that wants to get into the healthcare field. I'll give you an example. Someone going back to school and they're in their undergrad program, but their final goal is to be a physician. And that person is in an undergrad program. They go to work in a medical career somewhere on a part-time basis. So I would think of, if it's possible, I don't know the dynamics of your situation, but if you can do something that would get you into a textile environment on a part-time basis while in school, I think that would give you a leg up, and it would do nothing but help you network further into the industry.
Yeah, Doug, I like that. And something else too, when you're networking, also joining organizations like the AATCC, or maybe it's, I don't know, something was mentioned earlier, women in manufacturing, organizations like that will help connect you with those industry folks that you're probably wanting to get in front of. And then when you're having conversations with them too, don't be afraid, like I said, to put yourself out there and say, hey, I'd like to come for a visit and possibly tour your facility. Is anybody available? Would you be open to that? You'd be surprised at how much folks do like to share what their environment's like and how much you can actually gain from that experience as well.
That's a great point, Katie. Let me jump on the part of that as well. Going in to do a meeting with someone at a company and learn more about them, offer to go to that company and shadow someone. You're trying to understand what might be a career path for you in a textile company. Ask if you can go and shadow someone, because textile companies need people. And I think that's another way to just sort of get your foot in the door.
Yeah, and I have one thing to add, I would say, is even if you were already in another industry, that doesn't mean that those skills that you learned from that industry couldn't transfer over to textiles. So I would look at the roles and those career opportunities that you want to apply for and tailor your resume to match up with those skills that they're looking for. You know, if it's an organizational skill, it's, you know, depending on what you want to be, you can translate those items on your resume into an industry related kind of wording. Let's see. Regarding LinkedIn networking, how to start a conversation, and should I connect with HR people or the specific department that I might be interested in?
Katie, you want to kick that off?
I can. I mean, I would say both. Now, I may have a different approach than some other HR folks. I love to have conversations with people. There was a reason you reached out to me. So I want to know, what was it? Like, what is your interest there? So I love the connection. But I'd also recommend, if there is an area, let's say you're in sales, but it's in another industry and you want to remain in sales, but you're trying to switch industries, but there's a company you're really, you know, kind of looking into or maybe trying to pursue, send an invite. And that connection could be if you were at an event, or maybe you attended a webinar and they were one of the panelists. Send them an invite on LinkedIn that says, hey, I attended that webinar yesterday. I really liked what you spoke about, would enjoy connecting. And I would believe most of the time those people would accept that connection.
Agreed. I would say the same thing. LinkedIn messaging and networking through LinkedIn, I think, is very positive. It's a good, easy way to start an initial contact or initial conversation. I think that's very positive.
I agree, especially if there's something that, just asking, hey, I want to meet you for this reason. Can I get your email address? Can I set up a time? Make it, so that you can actually have either a face-to-face conversation that makes it better than just messaging back and forth on LinkedIn. Let's see. How can you find the right keywords to use when job hunting? Because it's more of a niche industry, it can be difficult to find postings. So I can give an example as a colorist. It's often very hard to find a colorist role on LinkedIn. You might search, even if you put like textiles maybe, but a lot of hair colorists often come up. So what are some other keywords that would help people in their job search?
I do a lot of work with keyword searching, trying to find people. And if you think about your database, if you think about your resume or your LinkedIn profile, they become part of very large databases. So think of the keywords to describe your experience. And don't just use a job title, use other keywords that represent the products you work with, that represent the processes you work with, that represent the technology that you use. And don't always just search based on job title, because job titles sometimes can be narrow or not. If the job could be posted and it's a perfect job for you, but it has a different title than what you used. So use multiple keywords and that's the best way. And think of your resume so you can be found. So let me say that again. Prepare your resume so that the keywords are in your resume so someone can find you based on your skills and talents. So think of those things that would allow someone to find you. Make sure they're in your resume. Technology tools that you're using, processes, products, materials, locations, those things are so important. Katie, I'm sure you have an idea on this too.
Well, I have something it's not really necessarily keywords, but I do have what I think is a resource that is probably often underutilized, and there's probably good job opportunities. A lot of the organizations, I don't know if the AATCC does, but a lot of those organizations that are membership organizations have almost like private job boards for their members. And that's going to be very specific to, like obviously chemicals and dyeing and all of that stuff, versus women in manufacturing will have roles within that. That could be project management or, facilities maintenance or anything like that as well. So those organization job boards are oftentimes where you might find very, niche roles that actually can fit what you're looking for too. So make sure you're looking on those.
I was going to recommend that as well. I know AATCC has a job posting spot, and looking elsewhere other than LinkedIn or some of the specific, trying to find a more specific search place, or even reaching out to like Coley. I know that you have sometimes different opportunities. Reaching out to a firm that specializes in textile industry hunts is also a good way.
Right. Thank you.
Let's see. Are there any textile certifications or continuing education classes that you'd recommend for individuals wanting to enhance their textile knowledge and/or experience?
I might let Doug take this one.
So I think certifications are great. There are all types of certifications. You have multi-year certifications with training and testing, that are related to the industries, certified purchasing professional, human resources recommendations. And then there are many things a little bit different that are related to technology tools. So think of the technology tools that are applied in your area that you work in, and try to become a power user or a certified professional with those technology tools. And continuing education, I think there are classes you can take, and you can acknowledge those. So if you think about there are educational classes and seminars that are put on by trade associations, and I think those are very valuable as well.
Definitely agree. Let's see. Any suggestions or thoughts on frequent job change? Is this stigmatized? Some job changes are merely related to growth opportunities. What are your thoughts on frequent job changes?
Katie?
I'll start, and I'll say that it's all about perspective, but it is how you tell your story. So I think if someone's been in a position for 1 to 2 years, or maybe their resume has 3 opportunities within the past 4 years, that can be viewed by some as a little bit of job hopping, but it's really all in how you tell that. Why were those changes made? What was the purpose and the reasoning behind of it? Sometimes it's out of your control. And a good person that is really interviewing that candidate and understanding, tell me more about you and your background, will be able to relate to that as well.
Yeah, this has changed over the many years. So if you think about it, when you're being considered for a job, someone's going to evaluate your past history and use that to predict your future. So if your history is to be at multiple jobs a year or two, then a new company that you're interviewing with may really like to see you there. They're going to invest in you. They may be worried about thinking of you there for only 12 to 24 months. On the other hand, it's just like Katie said, there are things that are beyond your control that cause you to make a job change. And they're easily explained. And you just have to take those one at a time and be clear about that. But I think that there are people making job changes for new opportunities. So you can describe how where you were employed, you tried to advance your career, you went to your leadership there and raised your hand and said, I want to take on more responsibility. I want to do something new. I feel like I'm repeating myself. You gave them an opportunity to give you more to do, and basically said, look, I'm ready to do more. And then you make a change, and then you can share that story with a company to explain why you made the change. And I don't think that would be stigmatized. I think that's a positive thing because you're trying to grow. So I think those are the ways I might handle that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point of explaining your story, right? Because there's a lot of different reasons it could happen. I relate with that as a military wife. You have to move every 3 years, so there's a reason why there's a job hopping appearance.
Yeah.
This is a comment, not a question, but Andrew had a great comment, so I wanted to mention it. Do not be afraid to step back to a lower position to get in the door if you want to change industry. Great comment, Andrew.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I can see it all the time. I will say sometimes with young professionals, they're probably less likely to actually do that because, again, on that resume, there might be some stigmatism with, or they may feel like there's stigmatism with, that wasn't a bump up, you kind of took a step back, or it wasn't a lateral role. Tell me more about that. But again, if you have a good explanation for why you took that position or why you wanted exposure in that area, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I can even speak to it myself. I've been in an HR manager position and I like it, I can do it, but where I feel like I really thrive is in a supportive role. That's where I'm happy in my career. I like supporting others. I like making them look good at their jobs too. And so I found that was what was right for me. And so there's nothing wrong with it.
I would like to share that I often will talk to people and they have taken a step back in a job change and then taken 2 steps forward. And I see that frequently. And it's not just about the compensation. And I think you just have to move to where your career is going to be honored and your experience is going to be honored the most, and make sure you're doing the thing that you enjoy the most. And if you have to step back to really do the type of job that you're going to enjoy the most, then that's fine.
There's two other recommendations here for our certificate question: Six Sigma or Lean, and a project management certificate, which are both great suggestions. And do you foresee more opportunities or growth for textiles made in the USA in the near future or in the long term? So more opportunities or growth?
You know, I do. Let me answer this a couple different ways. So there's a lot of interest in returning capacity of products that people are buying in this hemisphere, whether that be throughout North America, Central America. So that will bring more jobs to the U.S. because people do not want to be in Asia or some of the different parts of the world. They're trying to move closer to the product. They're trying to bring their supply chain closer to the U.S. Not that they don't want to do business there, but they're looking at the proximity. And some companies want to have product made in this hemisphere. I think that the person or the people that have more technical knowledge, even if the products are not made here, are going to stand out. So think about the person that's working for a brand today, and they have knowledge of the product in a manufacturing site. They're going to be different than some of their peers. And wherever that product's being made, they're going to stand out. But I think the products that are going to grow in the U.S. or the companies that will grow in the U.S. or the growth that we're going to see in textiles in the U.S. will be mass customization. It'll be many SKUs, many customers. They will not be, and it's that way today. It's more of smaller orders for many customers and more highly customized product. And then the second part of that would be products that might be sourced somewhere else in the world, and then there is value added here in the U.S. or products made in the U.S. with a lot of added value. Added value, what I mean by that is such as laminating, coating, embroidery, screen print, customizing. So products that are made here and then customized here will be an area of continued growth.
There's some great opportunities.
I have to say, Jessica, I really do like the level of activity from the audience. These have been great questions.
They have, and we actually just reached the end of them. So I'll do another call for questions. If you guys have any more, please feel free to type them in. I do have one more question that we could talk about, and that's work-life balance. Let's talk about how critical is it, what's a good way to talk about work-life balance?
I think it's really important. So when I was talking about don't be afraid at how fast you get there to attain certain certifications or degrees or whatever, gaining that real world experience and kind of going to school. And yes, it's very challenging and you can do it at the same time, but you can also do it on a different timeline and where you're still able to enjoy your life outside of work and outside of school. And it's just really good for your overall well-being. Everyone needs to be able to, what they say is unplug. I mean, you really need to be able to do that too.
Yeah, I would agree. If the work-life balance is out of control, you're not going to be happy. You're going to be you're not going to be as successful. So if you think about a place that you're employed and the work-life balance is upside down, you cannot sustain that very long. There might be periods of time, there might be a season where you're dealing with that, but if that should be a temporary season or temporary time. So I think that work-life balance is so critical. That gives someone the opportunity to do their best when their work-life balance is appropriate. And I'll tag into that with one other thing, and that's remote work. I don't know if you had that, Jessica, on your list, but remote work is changing. And, you know, we have clients that come to us looking for people, and 3 years ago, remote work was everywhere. And it was something that was mandated, and it became very comfortable. And a lot of companies adapted, and they were able to be successful with people working remote. And they had to do that to stay in business. And then things have sort of changed and become a little more normalized. And so many companies today are asking people to come back to work. And some very large corporations are starting to mandate, we want you back here. Now, there's many reasons for that, and there's no need to debate that. But I find that some people are clinging to that whole thing of, I only want a job that's remote. And you can do that, but you might miss out on some opportunities because it has changed a lot, and companies are asking people to be on site more. I think there will always be a hybrid scenario, or some hybrid scenarios where people work at home, remote, and in the office. We see a lot of that today, but there's a lot of companies that are now saying we want everyone back on site.
I agree. I think the hybrid aspect is a very nice, I think, meet in the middle. And that folks with work-life balance, that's a great opportunity, but you need to be flexible with that too. While people can complete their jobs completely remote, think about when you are navigating a new organization and you are trying to build those really trusting relationships, you can do it virtually, but sometimes there's nothing like that in-person conversation or collaboration, and like, let me show you what this really looks like, and here's what I've been experiencing, and let's look at this together. There's nothing more valuable than that too as well.
Agreed. It's a difficult topic, right? As we've gotten kind of used to being remote, and then having to come back, sometimes that adjustment period is difficult. We do have another question. What are your thoughts on pay transparency from companies looking to hire, as well from applicants? Let's talk salary. What are your thoughts on the transparency from the company side, but also from the applicant?
I would say I think it's really important from both aspects. I think from the company side, we do like to share our ranges with candidates when I'm talking with someone. I also like to know from both sides, what's your expected range? I would say with pay transparency with a lot of candidates, sometimes I see you may have a person that is really qualified and they do have a lot of certifications, and all of that is great, but the role that the company is actually looking for is within a certain range, and that is where we need that to be. And it's still a fair market salary. So just think about that. Be realistic for, while your certifications might be here, what roles are you applying for that really would indicate that salary range that you want to expect as well?
Katie, you summarized some of my thoughts very well. I would agree. I think when you're talking to companies, and you have to be open and honest, and you can share a range. Yes, you can do that. Or you can, but the most important thing is, if you're making your decisions and the priority is compensation, I know you're not asking this question, but let me just give you my thoughts. I think that you have to make sure when you're making a job change that, number one, it's the right job. And because I know people will come to me and say, Doug, I want to make a job change, and we'll start talking about their change. And they'll tell me, I'm totally miserable, but I'm making great money. And they will tell me what kind of money they're making, but their life is terrible. Their work-life balance is upside down. And I'll say, okay, so tell me where you need to be compensation. And they give me a range much lower than where they are. So you really have to prioritize money in the right spot. If you take a job and the money is outstanding, and you compromise what you're doing, and it's not necessarily what you would rather do, but boy, that paycheck is going to feel great. That's not going to sustain you. So I think you have to balance it out, but nothing is more important than taking the right job. And then typically what I find out is if you're taking the right job with the right company, the compensation will work itself out.
Fair point. Do we have any other questions? Andrew. Andrew said, I am one of the old people in the industries. I think leadership is a game changer. Can you lead a team? Are you a good manager? Qualities that are added benefits to a technical person.
Yeah.
Excellent point again.
That goes back to what I've said is the most powerful combination are the people skills and technical skills. And you can't trump that with anything. Those two things in combination make you the most valued.
Absolutely. Are there any other topics that either you, Katie, or Doug want to cover while we have our audience? We have no other questions in the chat, so we can either wrap it up or I want to open it up to either of you if there's anything else that you want to close it out with.
Katie?
Well, I'd just like to say thank you guys for inviting me today to be part of the panel. I've really enjoyed it. And like I said, I enjoyed the interaction with the audience as well. It's always nice to have those questions and to see what's kind of hot topics on potential candidates' minds too.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this. I'm very passionate about the textile industry. It's been my whole career. Just think there's a tremendous potential opportunity for everyone on this call today to grow in this career, in this industry here. And I'm just proud to be focused on trying to place people in the textile industry, and I love that. So I have a passion about it.
Well, I want to thank you both. I think this is a really great opportunity for people to learn. And even if they couldn't attend today, we have it as a recording so that our members can see this and hopefully either get that opportunity that they're looking for or grow within their company. I have one more slide where I just want to mention a few upcoming events that AATCC has. There's the AI and Textile Discovery, March 6th. We have the Functional Fabric Fair that AATCC will be attending during the Test Method Roadshow, April 17th to the 18th. We have the PFAS conference from May 2nd to the 3rd. And then, of course, our Textile Discovery Summit in Savannah. I will be there. I hope to see everybody else there as well. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask AATCC staff. Reach out if you have questions for me on RISE. Feel free to message me either on communities or you can reach me on there and you can get my email address. But I just want to say thank you again to both of you and all of our attendees. Excellent questions. I think that was really great from all of the audience.
Hey, Jessica, one last thing about the summit. It's in Savannah, Georgia. It's going to be a vacation, mini vacation for a lot of us. There is a golf tournament. There is a river cruise. The Westin does have a spa.
Love that.
So, and we're holding the rate for the weekend because this is I think Sunday through Tuesday. Yep. So you can go on Friday and get the same rate. So it's a great deal. So, you know, grab your family, grab your wives, grab your spouses, and come for a mini vacation before it gets cold.
Yep, that's my plan. I'm going all weekend. So if you want to hang out with me all weekend.
That does not sound terrible.
Yes,
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I'm driving
Andrew.
from Arkansas for it, so I'm there.
So Andrew has a car, everybody.
DD.
All right. Well, thank you again to everyone. I think this was an excellent panel, and I look forward to our future events and seeing everyone in person at the summit.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.